I am Tim Ryan. I'm the executive director for Innovate Hampton Roads, formerly known as Start Wheel. The executive director for Reactor, that is a tech space within the city of Hampton, helping companies develop their business that is centered around technology, and also the program director, whatever you want to call it, for Start Peninsula. And this is year 12 for us, and really proud of what we've been able to accomplish. And I am joined by Gary Plaag, and we've been doing this Pitch Perfect event for several years now. Gary, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, I'm Gary. I've been helping Tim for a while. We met in 2015, and then we did not pitch perfect, but the pitch competitions it was just one and it was live. And then we went online with the pandemic. And so we've been working on these pitch perfect ideas for the past, probably, I would guess 4 or 5 years we've been doing these. So,
Yeah.
yep. So I have a communication consulting business. I've had it for 25 years. It's just me. I was an entrepreneur, so I get the space. I understand the pain and the joy of doing that. And so I work with people on their presentation skills. And so that's what I bring to the table, is to help you be as effective as possible with how you tell your story. And we'll see more of that later on as we go. But hopefully that gives everybody some idea of who I am.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Gary. And I have been working with early stage startups for the last 12 years or so. And I have done everything from running this program for the last 12 years, but also started a business incubator in Greater Williamsburg called the Launchpad. That is now being managed by William & Mary. So that is one of the proud moments in my career, to build something that was shiny enough or new enough or good enough that an institution like William & Mary would want to take that under their wing. So I have that. Then with Start Wheel, now Innovate Hampton Roads, that is all about working with the entrepreneurial and innovation community across the region. If you are not part of if you don't subscribe to that newsletter, I really encourage you to do so. All the different news, all the events, all the happenings is listed on that weekly newsletter that goes out every Tuesday, amongst many other things. And I also am an angel investor as well. So just as Gary said, he's been in communications for 25 years and is an entrepreneur, and he understands the space. I am the same, in the sense of I've helped early stage startups validate their business, which they do here with Start Peninsula, but also I know what it's like to write a check. So I understand what it's like, what I'm looking for to invest in companies. So we really cover the gamut when it comes to that. So just admit a couple more people. Let's get going with this. So the agenda for tonight, we're going to talk about the elements of the pitch. And that'll probably be the first, take us till 7 o'clock. And then we'll give people the opportunity to, if you have any specific questions about your pitch, we'll give people the opportunity to practice their pitch and receive feedback from Gary and I. With that, it may sound scary, it may sound spooky, but everyone, when you entered this, you didn't realize it, but you shed your ego upon entering into this Zoom session. So we are all on an equal playing field. We are in a safe space, and there is no wrong way of doing things. So if you've not done this before, what I recommend you do, take a piece of paper, grab a pen or a pencil, whatever it is that you need, and just start writing down the answers to the questions that we are going to be talking about today. And then from there, once we're done with this presentation, that really will outline the different things that you need to include into your pitch. And then it's just a matter, then you can just read that right off the piece of paper. But by doing that, then you realize how quick 3 minutes is. I mean, three minutes is really, really fast. And we're going to prepare you for all of that, and you're going to do great. And if nobody I'm just going to warn you right now, if nobody volunteers to practice, one of Gary's superpowers that he didn't share is that he puts pressure on you over Zoom in ways that you didn't know that you could feel until someone volunteers to practice their pitch.
You
So
won't even know it's happening. It's so totally subliminal. So just be prepared.
yeah,
It's
and
all done. It's all done out of love. So
and it's working right now. I can already feel it through the airwaves. So let's break down 3 minutes, what it looks like. And these are just suggestions. This is not like a cookbook that if you confuse a teaspoon and a tablespoon, it's going to mess up the entire whatever it is that you're baking. This is just outlining what 3 minutes looks like. We can shuffle things around. This is all part of the process. So start with an attention getter. That can be a quote. It can be a statement. It could be just anything that you think is going to capture somebody's attention. And we will go into these in more detail, and we can talk about these things when someone practices a pitch, but start thinking about, hey, this is what is going to capture everyone's attention. What it is not a question. We are not in the business of wasting time. We want to get someone's attention, and we want to get to it before we lose someone's attention span. And we're going to go into the problem or the opportunity. We'll talk about that for 50 seconds, give or take. And what you will see during pitches, especially when you attend Start Peninsula, is that it is really, really easy to go over 50 seconds with the problem. It's very easy to talk about what the problem is. Where people skimp on is the solution. So after that, after that 50 seconds, we talk about the solution. And for those that are technically minded, it's very easy to get down in the weeds talking about the technology. We want to keep things high level. Investors are not that smart. They want to know how they're going to make money. They don't necessarily, at least not the first meeting, they're not interested in the technology. Second meetings, third meetings, then we can get into that. Now we have a reason that people want to know who you are and what your name is. So take 10 seconds to share your name, and also a good time to give a company one-liner. So that way they can say, oh, that's Gary. He's the communication guy. Everyone is going to be labeled by something, but come up with that one-liner so that you can help that person come up with a way that that they're going to remember you. The other thing too is the fact that we're going to make sure that when you participate to Start Peninsula, that you have a nice fancy virtual background. Your name is already going to be over your shoulder to begin with. And for some reason, if the virtual background doesn't work, someone can just move the cursor over your picture, and your name is going to appear anyway. So let's just maximize the time that we have on the things that are going to matter. So now people know who you are. They know your company one-liner, and now we're going to talk about the target market. Take 50 seconds to talk about that. All of these things: problem, solution, target market. We're going to dive deeper into what you need to cover in that as we progress through this presentation. You have your closing, which is 10 seconds. And what is that? Again, reiterate who you are, the company one-liner, remind them so that is fresh on their brain. The goal is you want to make them want more. This is the movie trailer. This is the commercial. This is the thing that you want to get that second meeting. And in this case for Start Peninsula, that second meeting is to get through to the finals in November. You're not going to close the deal. You're not going to get an investor. You're not going to raise your funding. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Right now, the purpose is to make them want more. And you add all that up, that's your 3 minutes. So you can see it's a lot of information that needs to be captured, and there's not a lot of time to do it. Again, you can shuffle all this around. If you need 60 seconds in the target market, you can shave 10 seconds or something. We can play around with all that stuff, but You should practice this so many times that you should know that internal clock should start to work, knowing. And Gary and I we have heard hundreds, if not thousands, of pitches at this point. We know when someone's going to run out of time. I mean, we know when 1 minute has passed or 2 minutes have passed and we're still talking about the problem. We know that it's not going to end well, but we're going to, not for you all, because you're watching this, and we're going to prevent that from happening. Anything you want to add to that, Gary, before we jump ahead?
Nope.
Awesome. One of the things, so this is a new ad. For those people that have watched and attended Pitch Perfect before, we are constantly learning. We're improving the deck, and this is a new ad for you all. And I just really want to briefly go over why the pitch is structured the way that it is. And really what it comes down to, if there is no problem, then there is no need. And if you don't talk about your solution, then what you're telling me is you don't have a product. And if you have no market, you have no growth. So like right there, those three things, the problem, solution, and market, that's the 50 seconds, 50 seconds, and 50 seconds. That's the majority of your pitch right there. That is what the judging rubric is. So there's no secrets here. We want you all to succeed. When the judges have their score sheet, that's what they're evaluating you on, is your problem, solution, market, and then your overall pitch. So the next thing is no traction, no customers. This is kind of jumping ahead a little bit in November, because you're going to want to talk about the traction. Or in this case, if you're participating and you have time, you want to talk about the fact of, hey, we interviewed 50 people and this is what they said. Helps validate what you're doing. No model, no money. What I mean by no model is, what's your financial money model? How do you make money? So again, that is something that's going to be covered in November. Just sharing that with you now so that it's something that you can think about as you move forward. No team, no execution. You've got to have a team. If you don't have a team, it's just not going to happen. We'll get into that further. No performance, no memory. And what do we mean by that? This is a performance. You are performing on the virtual stage. And if you are just going through and you're monotone and there's nothing more than that, and there's not a performance, there's no memory. I mean, so and we want to make sure that the memory that they have of you is a good memory. Yeah, it needs to be positive. So that's the secret sauce in terms of how the pitches should be structured, and what it's going to take to be successful. Gary, I think this is the first time you saw the slide. So, all right, now we're going to talk about the performance aspect. Gary, I can take it, or if you want to take it, or we can tag team on this together. But another reason we talk about this being a performance is because people are visual learners. And we talk about the fact that that stories sell and numbers tell. What we want to do is we want to tell a story here. And what the story that we're talking about is how the customer uses your product or service. Yeah, so when you take them along that customer journey, when you take them along with you for the ride, so to speak, that's telling a story. And because we're visual learners, everything starts to make sense. And then they go along with it, and then they're following you. And then the more you practice, the more questions you get. Then we continue to add to the story, and we make everything just flows. And that's what we're looking for, is that flow state. And they are going to remember the story above all else. I still remember pitches from Start Peninsula from years and years ago. If you tell me a name or show me a face or name the company or the company one-liner, chances are I can remember that pitch if they had a story. And show, don't tell. What I mean by that is, rather than talk about what your product is, if you can show a screenshot or a picture of what it is, show them. Don't tell them about it. The whole adage of a picture being 1,000 words, a video is worth 1,000,000. I would caution on demos, because Murphy's Law comes into effect, and if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. So you have to be very, very careful. And the last thing you want to do is fumble around, wasting precious seconds getting videos queued up or demos ready to go. We just want to make sure. So if a picture works, then stick with the picture. Anything else you want to add, Gary?
Yep, just along with that, if you have data that you're trying to demonstrate some aspect of your story, avoid putting it in a text format. If you could put it in a chart, like Tim said, that a picture paints 1,000 words. So if you can do a chart, if you can demonstrate growth with some sort of graph or something that shows how the need for your product or service has grown over the past 10 years, and this is why you're addressing it, but you can just show us that, say it briefly and move on. And you don't have to spend a lot of time explaining it. The picture tells the story. So think of that as well as you're developing your tools.
Cool, cool. Thank you, Gary. All right, now we're going to get into the meat. This is the part where we talk about the problem, that first 50-second block. And as a reminder, no problem, no need. So here are some things to consider. And I mentioned this before, but yeah, you really, when you can label different, as you're outlining this, you can label these different sections and you can time. All right, I'm talking about the problem for this amount of time. Don't exceed this 50 seconds. It's super, super easy to do it. We see it all the time. The big thing is, yeah, we want to know how big is the problem? Is that problem big enough that it's worth solving? And how well do you know that problem? These are the things that we want you to talk about, and then demonstrating what that need is. So I guess as if you wanted to have a landscape, someone come to your house to do some landscaping, and then you're talking to that person, you feel really, really confident when they know exactly what needs to be done, and they give you that warm, fuzzy feeling because they see the vision that you have. And then you're like, yep, this is my person to do it. This is what we're talking about. How big is the problem? How well do they know the problem? That is, that is, you have to show that you are the expert. You have the team that is going to make it happen. How big is the problem? That can be measured in terms of how many people suffer from the problem, how much money people are spending on that problem. You can look at what the TAM, the total addressable market, may be. If we could, that's another subject within itself. I will just quickly say that there's a lazy TAM and there's a bottom up TAM. This being a place to validate your business idea, I would stay away from the lazy TAM. What do I mean by lazy TAM? Say you are going to be working, you have a new real estate type of solution. You Google, what is the total addressable market in real estate? And it's going to give you a number like $3 trillion. And judges and investors, they know right off the bat, there's no way that you are going to take a significant piece of a $3 trillion market. So that would be the lazy TAM. The bottoms up TAM, that is, okay, I only want to focus on 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom houses. So then you look at, all right, how many 1 or 2-bedroom houses number, or what is that number? It's going to be significantly smaller, but that's okay. This is now a more obtainable number that you're going to go after. And you can expand that later on down the line. Once you've got the process down for your 1 or 2-bedroom, then you expand into 3 and 4-bedroom homes. Perfect. You've got it. But you want to show that you are focused. You know what the problem is. You know how you're going to talk about how you're going to solve it. It just shows that you have your stuff together. So I hope that makes sense. But again, this is really the problem. This is probably the easiest in terms of defining, most difficult to get it down to 50 seconds. All right, we're going to talk about the solution, and remember, no solution, no product. This is what we're talking about, the product. And there's a few different things that we're going to touch on here. These all would go as part of the solution. So you have your idea and your innovation. So things to consider, especially when it comes to a competition such as this. The audience, they don't know you and they don't know your business. Chances are the first time that they're ever going to hear you speak is after Gary says, you have 3 minutes on the clock, go. This will be the first time they ever hear you. So they don't know who you are, what your business is, you have to really think about this in the sense that they can grasp everything, what the problem is, what the solution is, how you're going to do it, why you're the people that are going to make it happen and make it a reality and change the world. So Gary, one of the things that Gary will often mention is it has to pass the mom test. If your mom or a child does not understand it, then you got to go back to the drawing board and explain it in a way that it can be understood. But we've seen so many people go through Start Peninsula and they just assume that people know what they're doing. And then the biggest question is, I don't understand what the problem is that you're trying to solve. And then with that being part of the metric, and you get docked all your points on what the problem is or what the solution is, it just makes it really, really tough to compete.
Just jump in real quick. Tim and I often joke after many of these events, and it's not a joke. I mean, it's kind of funny because you see it happen and people don't know to not do this, but we often talk about them having a solution looking for a problem because they never identified the problem. They just told us this great solution for something, and we don't even understand why it's a problem. Why is that solution necessary? So really thinking about something that may be helpful is you're really explaining what the problem is, briefly explaining it so that your solution makes sense as a solution for this problem. So something to think about is when you're creating an explanation, you have to anticipate where people are going to get confused. And so when you create your explanation for this product, think about where might somebody get confused. And that might be like, does it pass the mom test? If somebody's saying, I don't get it, then you haven't explained it well enough. And it has to be done quickly, and it can be done quickly and succinctly, but you have to be really thinking about, have I anticipated where people are going to get confused? So just another idea to think about.
Yep. And I want you to think about how you are different or how you are better. And another trap that people make when regarding this is an opportunity to put down other companies. Take the high road. You keep the focus on you. Don't put the focus on someone else. Don't raise a question that wasn't going to be asked. Perhaps the person that you are pitching to, they didn't even think about that company or that as a possible competitor. So talk about how you are better and in what ways that you are better. This is another perfect example that you can have one quick chart, and it can be your company and then 3 or 4 other logos of your biggest competitors. And it can just be we do this with the checks, check. Other companies, they don't have the checks. And you can say, hey, we're better because we do this, and that. And you don't even have to mention the other companies. People can read that and see that much faster than you can explain it. And then how much better is your solution? So as we're talking about how you're better, how much better is it? The thing, I want you to think 10x. And this is really primarily from your business standpoint. If you want to change someone's behavior from what they are currently doing or how they currently do it, it needs to be 10 times better than what they're currently doing in order for them to change the behavior. So an example that I will likely use, or that I often use, is for those that don't know, I'm a big fan of Elon Musk and Tesla, and how to get people to convert from a gas-powered car to an electric vehicle. Elon Musk knew that it needed to be 10 times better. So there's zero emissions. You don't pay for gas. Electricity is cheaper than gas. There is no maintenance. There's nothing for it to break, because there's not any moving parts. The list goes on and on and on in terms of why an electric vehicle is 10 times better. Therefore, making that transition from gas-powered cars to electric cars was much, much easier. And Elon will talk about that, how they developed as a company. So think 10x. You've got to, this is the way that you're doing it. We can save you time. It's better. It's cheaper. It's faster. I'm not a big fan of differentiating on price. because once you differentiate on price, it's really, really hard you can't add features typically without the need to increase the price. So I'd rather you add features, highlight features, talk about the service than differentiating yourself on price. All right, the team is really, really important because again, with no team, there is no execution. So things to consider here is showcasing your strengths. Why are you the team that is going to make this a reality? How are you going to solve this problem? It could be the experience that you have. You are because that is your profession. It could be because this is the day-to-day life that you live every single day. You feel the pain point more than anyone else. It could be the fact that you have patents, trade secrets, whatever the case might be. Your whole team has a combined years of experience. The list goes on and on and on. But the team, that it is so important. I cannot stress that enough. If you are a single person team, that we'll get into this a little bit later, but this is a point where these are the things that I'm looking for to round out my team. You want to offset your weaknesses with someone else's strengths. So that way you can show the people that you're pitching to that, yep, I get it. I got the vision. This is what we're going to do so that we can have an A+ team and that we're going to make this a reality. If you're sitting on a golden nugget for some reason, you have contacts or a contract or an agreement in place, this is not the time to keep this kind of stuff last. Showcasing your strengths and why you're better off than the other people that are out there, really, really important. So you want to come out with all your strong stuff first. Oh, this is another. If you're a second-time founder or a third-time founder and you failed your first time or your first and second time, that's I view that as a positive thing. I'm not gonna be like, oh, this person's a schmuck, they're a loser. There's no way that they're gonna amount to anything. I know that you learned more from not being successful in that first or second venture, that you're not gonna, well, at least I hope that you're not gonna make those mistakes again. So, hey, own it. I was a founder before, or it didn't work out. I have what it takes in order to make it work now. Or I was a previous founder, had a successful exit. Whatever the case is, there's some strength in there. So don't overshadow the different things that you've done. If you have a question, let me know. I'm happy to answer. Happy to direct you further. Did I leave anything out, Gary?
There's a question in the chat. It's from Araj. How would you recommend selling your team as a tech startup? What can set a particular team of software engineers apart from others? So maybe we can come back to that later, or
Okay.
if you want to address it, but just know there's a question specifically.
Okay. The marketability, how, no market, no growth. So things to consider here, identifying who your customer is. Again, we talked a little bit about this regarding the total addressable market, or your TAM. You need to know who your customers are. And then we're going to continue to drill down. You're going to demonstrate your understanding of the size of the market. This is really important when you're talking to investors, because all the execution, you have to execute. In order to execute, you need to know who you're going after, who you're targeting, what the size is. Do you have customers right now? Really, really important piece of information. You need to make sure that you know the difference between customers and users. Customers are people that pay. Users are typically those that get it for free. So if you have users and they're just testing the platform, totally cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But where you get into trouble is if someone was asking you how many customers do you have, and then the next question was how much are you generating a month in revenue, and you said 0, then that's where things get a little squishy. But do you have customers? And if you have customers, how are you delighting them? Have they given you any testimonials? Have you, have they said, I would be lost without you? Before I had you, I spent X amount of time or X amount of dollars or whatever the case is. And now, I would be lost without you. So how are you delighting them? That all really positive things to share so that you can further validate your business and where it's going. Because we are all working towards the execution. Ideas are great. I hear ideas all the time, every day, but if you can't execute on those, it means nothing. So a lot of this will come down to what is your why? What is going to get you out of bed in the morning? The entrepreneurial journey is hard. You're going to have really high highs. You're going to have really real low lows. But the thing that's going to get you out of bed when you're on one of those lows is what your why is. It's really, I can't stress enough, especially from an investor point of view, when you hear somebody who has that emotional attachment and they know no matter what, if they have to live in a box under a bridge by next to the van down by the river, they're going to make this thing work. So a few years ago, we had a company participate in Start Peninsula. The name of that company is Answers Now. That is an app for parents of autistic children. And the premise of the pitch was you're in a store and your child has an outburst. You have no idea what to do. You have no idea how to find any help. What do you do in that situation? And the answer is Answers Now. That was an app to help guide you through those situations. And then he followed that pitch up with, and the reason I know is because that happened to me and that is my child. So you knew that no matter what, they were going to solve that challenge. And like they have gone on to raise millions of dollars in funding ever since then. It's been one of our Start Peninsula's biggest success stories. I think they just finished a Series A round. They're located up in Richmond right now. But what is your why? I mean, that is what's going to set you apart, that no matter what, you're going to make that thing a reality. Because at the end of the day, like I said, you can have all the blueprints to the most fantastic, awesome homes that would be featured on Zillow Gone Wild. But if you can't build that house and make it a reality, it's just nothing but a blueprint. You can't sell that's not going to command the price of the actual home. And taking it one step further, investors, they invest in the people more than the idea. Again, ideas are cheap. You have to talk about this is who we are. This is how we're going to execute. And I am the person that is going to make that happen. We're going to take this problem. We're going to throw it on my back. We're going to march down the field and we're going to make this a reality and change the world and make it a better place. And it's all about the execution. Elon Musk sleeping on in the conference rooms during the Model 3 build out because it had to get done. I mean, it's pretty powerful. Why now? Timing is everything. A lot of times, the popular question is, was it timing or was it luck? It was a little bit of both. But like Uber wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the cell phone. Netflix wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for broadband. That we would still be getting DVDs mailed to us. All of these things, the right timing had to be in place. So why is now the time? Is the market is ready to go? They want this. During your customer interviews, this is the overwhelming response that you received. But why now? Why is now the right time to do it? And being too early is often just as bad as being too late. So you really, really need to, that is just something that is really, really important to showcase. Why now? It's actually every deal memo that I get from an investing standpoint, that question is always answered. That's part of it. Big bold letters. Why now? And they talk about it. Basic needs. So this is where we talk about the vulnerability aspects, that leaning into that vulnerable state. Because if you don't share what your needs are, then they don't know how to help you. I love the entrepreneurial community because everyone is so willing to help one another. But if no one knows what you need and how you can be helped, no one's gonna be able to do anything for you. So lean into that vulnerability and show and tell people, and you'll be amazed at how people would be, or they're going to be willing to help you. And vulnerability, it is a strength. It is not a weakness. It's a challenge. This is a real challenge in the entrepreneurial world because you need to be that confident type A founder, that shows that you're going to execute and yada, yada, yada. But at the same time, you need to know, hey, my team is missing this piece. We need someone who's very technical. We need a full stack developer. We need whatever the case, identify what those needs are. One of the beautiful things about Start Peninsula is the audience that we have. You have potential customers, potential investors. You have the judges that have huge networks. You can have a potential co-founder, people in the audience that are participating right now. You could end up working with one another and joining forces. It's just, we've seen all of this happen through Start Peninsula. So, but until you show what your weaknesses are and move forward to fill those weaknesses, you're at a disadvantage. So be coachable, listen to what people have to say. At the end of the day, you're the CEO and you make those decisions, but listen with an honest ear, and you'll be amazed. This is where I turn things over to Gary. Talk about the tricks of the trade.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So one of the things that this first thing, practice. The old joke is, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? And like, how do you get to be a performer at Carnegie Hall? And the answer was always practice. And I think when you're like, when you play a musical instrument, or you have some sort of skill like that, I've heard people say it's 10,000 hours of practicing and being prepared for that. And I don't suggest that this pitch is going to take you 10,000 hours, but you got to spend some time doing it. And this is where you tell yourself where you're really committed. Because if I'm not willing to practice to the extent that I need to for this to go well, then am I really committed? If you want to learn to play that musical instrument and you don't put the hours in, you're never going to be able to play it. If you want to really do well at this pitch contest, or even beyond the pitch contest, to sell your idea to other people, this is really good practice for that. And if you're not willing to practice, it's probably not going to end as well as you'd like it to end. So just really suggest that practice. I know sometimes we don't have time, but it's really critical that we do it. As Tim mentioned this before, the next thing is that you don't want to start with a question, because the question just wastes time. And you also don't want to start with your name, because as Tim said before, your name is already on the screen. And we're going to announce, please welcome John. We're going to already say that, and they're going to see, and they know the judges know on their score sheet that they're doing the score sheet for John, and they know that already. So don't waste your time with that. This next thing is really hard. I had a friend that was a writer, was a speech writer for a senator, a US senator. And he said, as a speech writer, you have to be willing to kill your darlings. That means you have to be willing to delete things that don't support what it is you're trying to accomplish. And it's really hard to do that when you've worked really hard and all this stuff is important and you want to include it all because you think it'll be helpful. Really, you have to delete anything that's irrelevant to the story, at least irrelevant to the story right now. Remember, Tim said that this is just the trailer. It's enough to get somebody interested to move you on to the next level. And you've got to whet their appetite for hearing more. And they'll also ask you more in the Q&A. And the best kind of Q&A is when they're not asking questions to try to help you to fulfill your 3 minutes or 2 minutes, or make your story stronger because you left out relevant parts. It's better if you've covered all the relevant parts and they want to know a little bit more than just the basics. That means that you've really gotten their attention. and they'll ask you things in the Q&A then. The next thing is Sim talked about, it's a performance, it's a story. The way that you look online, we can, because your screen's going to be on, your picture's going to be next to the slides, if you have slides, and the judges are going to be watching you. And we're pretty visual. We can tell from your voice, we can tell from what you look like on the screen, if you're passionate about this. We can tell if you're scared. We can tell if you're nervous. And I got to tell you, in my business, pity is not a desirable response from audience members. And if you're not on your game and you haven't practiced and you don't have your story and your performance up to par, then it becomes pity. Like that poor person, I feel so badly for them. They really didn't get their story out. And you don't want that reaction from, especially the judges, because they score that. They score how confident you look. They score the performance, as well as do you hit the key points. So for every slide, every line on a slide, you need to ask yourself, does it help my story? Does it enhance the story, or does it detract from the story? And these are tough things. And when you want to practice, then if you want Tim or me to help you, then we're going to ask you those tough questions. We're going to say, tell me how that enhances the story. Tell me how that detracts from the story. Well, I guess it does detract from it. Yep. So really, in this beginning thing, get your ideas out, get them out, make some slides, but be prepared to go through these very things and say, is that helping or hurting? I don't think it's really telling what I want the story to be told. Other things to think about is, like, ask friends of yours to look at your deck, or let them, like, pitch to them and let them give you feedback and say, yeah, I kind of got lost in this one part. That's where the mom test becomes important. I used to work in IT before this business, and my mother, she never understood what I did. And so I really had to make it so that my mother could understand it, so she could tell people. But if I told her all the technical details about being in IT, she never understood it. So all of these ideas, these are tricks of the trade. The other thing that I would suggest for you to do is to, cell phones are cheap. Not the cell phone itself isn't cheap, but the recording on the cell phone is cheap. I suggest either set yourself up your own Zoom meeting, turn the recording on, pitch to yourself in the Zoom thing. If you don't want to do a Zoom thing, set your phone up and pitch to yourself on the phone. And then here's the really spooky part. Then watch it. Really play it back and watch it. No one else is watching it with you. It sounds terrifying, I know, but once you know what other people are seeing, you will be way more confident. Get that insecurity, that I look stupid, all that kind of stuff. Get that out of your system. I guarantee that by the 5th time you look at it, all those vanity issues go away. You're no longer worried about your hair or what you look like or what your voice is like. We can't change your voice. It is what it is, but you're not used to hearing it, because it goes, when you speak, it vibrates through all kinds of bone matter here. And when you hear it, you're hearing it from inside your head. So when you record stuff and then play it back, then you can actually hear what you sound like. And the recording doesn't lie. It's legitimately what you sound like, and it's what you look like. You can see if your gestures look good. Are they convincing? Am I using facial expressions? Am I really explaining? Do I look passionate? All that kind of stuff happens when you video record yourself and then go watch it. So those are my thoughts for how to make this a really great experience for you. I will tell you that one of the things I've noticed in the past, I don't know, 20 or 30 pitch things that Tim and I have done, is the people that don't do as well, some of them have not ever done that recording themselves and looking at it. And the other thing that happens, the reason where they fall down is they're not able to easily explain the concept of what they're trying to achieve. And that's the biggest comment we get from judges, is that there's usually a line of maybe the top 5 are pretty tight, but then there's a big gap. And that gap is because the story wasn't clear. I didn't know what they were doing. I didn't get it. They clearly were uncomfortable. I mean, we've seen, when these things were live, we've seen disasters that are really, really sad when you go back and look at it and go, wow, I feel so bad. So, but it's usually because the person didn't practice. So I leave it at that it's really,
Yeah.
really important to do that.
One thing to add on that is, and it's an easy example for me to use. So Tesla, again, they have the Model 3, the Model Y, the Model S, the Model X, and soon to be Cybertruck. If they were to do a pitch, they're not going to go into every single model of vehicles they have. They're going to say that they are electrifying vehicles, and then they're going to leave it at that. I mean, it's going to be super high level. So if you have multiple products or you're solving multiple areas, you don't boil that up, bring it up to a higher level. Don't talk about everything individually in granular detail, because one, you're going to run out of time and you're going to confuse people, or it's going to sound like you're trying to do too much. We call it boil the ocean. So you don't boil the ocean. Stay on point. Do one thing at a time, and then that's what your product roadmap is for. And that's for a whole second. That's the second, third, fourth meeting. That okay, once we do this, then we're going to do that, and then we're going to expand it to this area. So keep things high level, focus on one thing, and then keep moving. The other aspect of Start Peninsula that we do by design, so you have a 3-minute pitch and you have a 2-minute question and answer period. The way the question and answer period works, you finish your pitch, Gary then kicks it over to the judges, and the judges will ask all 3 questions in succession. So it's not going to be Judge 1 asks a question, then you answer the question. Judge 2 asks, then you answer. Judge 1's going to ask the question. Judge 2 is going to ask the question. Judge 3 is going to ask the question. Then we put 2 minutes on the clock, and you have 2 minutes to answer those questions. So why do we do that? Just like when I say people are verbose when it comes to describing the problem, people get very verbose when it comes to answering questions. So we are forcing you to answer 3 questions in 2 minutes so that you can do it succinctly and efficiently. So just answer the question and move on. One of the things that you're going to find is well, I'll back up. Inside baseball, we have seen people get into the final 3 and win because of the Q&A, and we have seen people talk themselves out of winning because of the Q&A. Stick to the answer and move on. When you answer the question, don't feel the need to keep on answering and saying more stuff. Again, is it relevant to the story? Does it enhance? Does it detract? Answer the question, move on. Think about it from a table tennis or ping pong standpoint, and you just volley back and forth with one another. Ask the question, answer the question. Ask the question, answer the question. You're going to do this with all 3 questions. You say, Judge number 1, you asked about this. Da, 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 da. Judge number 2, to answer your question. Da, 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 da. And you do it in a succinct fashion. And so this is by design to train you in to answer those questions. And the other thing that's really crazy about it is that now you have no idea what those questions are, and it's completely unscripted. And now you're able to speak from the heart. You're not in your head as much as this is how I am feeling passionately about what is happening. And so that's how people have been able to talk their way in, because it's unscripted, right from the heart. Their why is showing, and then like, man, this person has it. We want to give that person a chance. Anything you want to add to Q&A?
2 things. Can I add 2 things, Tim? One is that they're not going to ask you anything. There's no follow-up questions. So they'll ask you those 3, and it's your use of the 2 minutes. You might answer all 3 questions in 1 minute and 15 seconds, and you have another 45 seconds left. So you could, if you knew your stuff pretty well, you could add something that you forgot in the pitch, or you could add some additional information that may be helpful. So don't just get to the end of the third question and Tim hasn't said time and go, well, I guess I'm done. And then we all sit there for 15 seconds. No, you have 15 more seconds that you can actually share something more that will be helpful. And so really, really important to do that. And we can't tell you that once the first pitcher goes and wastes their time like that. Tim and I can't coach the rest of the group to say, be sure that you fill your entire 2 minutes of Q&A. So we're telling you that now, and we can't tell you that on the night of the pitch.
And we're not going to stare at each other. All of us stare at one another in silence, waiting for the 2 minutes to expire. When you're done talking, we move on to the next pitch. And if you do, if something happens, and if you do run out of time, if it was me, I would then say, judge number 3, I did not get a chance to answer that third question fully. I'll send you the rest of the answer via direct message. Done. Nothing stopping you from doing that.
Yep.
All right.
Somebody just asked, Chris asked, if the pitches were online or are we doing them in person? They're all online.
Everything is online. Yep. So right now, we understand, we advertise Pitch Perfect as we want you to be here live. We understand that Wednesdays from 6 to 8 doesn't always work for everybody. So for those people that we'll send the replay link to you all so you can watch it again. Everyone that registered gets the replay link. So for those people that are watching later and aren't going to be here, we're going to give you a secret phrase so that you can get credit for attending, so that if you pitch, you get your $50 refunded. So this is just for the people that are watching the replay. So Gary, I don't know if you have any. I was thinking the phrase would be, the turkey flew into the tree. Is that too long?
No, that's good.
So Andrew, obviously we know everybody that registered. We know the people that are here tonight. So for those watching the replay, and if you want credit for watching Pitch Perfect, the turkey flew into the tree. Just let us know, and then you'll get credit for attending. When you pitch, we'll refund your $50. I can't stress it enough. The $50 is not a revenue maker for Start Peninsula. We're not in the business of trying to make money. We are not one of these organizations that's like, hey, we're going to charge everyone $50 to pitch their business. We just want everyone to show up. That's all we really want to do. Ticket sales are going to, once we hit 10, ticket sales are done. Until we get 10, we're going to continue to push people to do it. But just because you're approved to pitch does not mean that you are guaranteed in the top 10 to pitch. So secure that pitch ticket before they're gone. Because we sell out every time, we'll take 2 alternates. And then the deal with the alternates is going to be, if someone doesn't show up and they were pitcher number 5, for example, you need to, and when we call for pitcher 5, and if they're not there, then as the alternate, you jump in and you pitch. And the same deal. It's just, you're not going to be charged to pitch. So many people have great ideas. They want to be successful in business. We want to give them the chance to pitch their business and have this experience.
And that exact thing happened at the last micro pitch. And I think 2 of the alternates got to pitch, 1 or 2 of them, because 2 people didn't show. And so right then it was like, okay, you're on. And they were ready.
And if you don't show up, you don't get your $50 back. It's all right. So let's get into some Q&A. So the one question was actually,
there was one other thing I wanted to say.
The turkey flew into the tree.
The turkey flew into the tree. Yeah. No, the other thing I want to say was that when you're to prepare for the Q&A, is get your friends, family members, colleagues, whatever, people who know this thing that you're pitching, ask them for questions that would scare you to death about this product or this service or whatever you're pitching. Don't rely on easy questions. ask yourself questions that would scare you. Like, what if they ask me this? I don't know how I would answer it. Well, then prepare the answer. The easy questions are easy, but really practice the hard questions, the things that you hope they don't ask you, so that you have a good answer. That's the other thing I want to say.
Yeah, the other, and while you're practicing, Gary talked about practice, practice, practice. While you're practicing and you're practicing to everyone and anyone that will listen to you for 3 minutes, do yourself a favor and have a journal, write down every question that was asked. And once you get the same question asked multiple times, that means you have a hole in your pitch and you need to address that question before it's asked. So answer the question before it's asked, put it in your pitch. This is how you're going to continue to improve. You're only going to be as good as your last pitch. So if this is the first time you pitch is on September 13th at the event, it's not going to be nearly as good as the person that's practiced it. And this is now their 150th time doing their pitch. So,
hey Tim, are the pitches, the past pitches are up online, right?
yeah. So, yeah, if they go,
Yeah, so I highly recommend you go look at the pitches from the last couple, even the last year final. Listen to the questions that are asked by the judges. What kind of things did they ask? How did the people answer them?
The
The
judges will also be online. So Marty Kazabowski and William McFeet are going to be two of the judges. Our other judges dropped out today because they're going to be on travel, but all the judges will be online, so you can get a flavor in terms of the questions that they ask.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to Start Peninsula's YouTube channel, or you can go to startpeninsula.com, go to previously aired events. This is going to take you to YouTube anyway, but all that stuff is there.
Yeah, somebody just asked that question and you just told us where they are. So
cool.
Andrew, I think, posted them as well. Oh, there's still the question from before. How would you recommend selling your team as a tech startup? What can set a particular team of software engineers apart from others?
See, that one, I mean, that's an interesting question, because the thing is, you already have, you are at an advantage. Technical co-founders and technical teams, just typically people are always searching for the tech. That's the missing piece. So you being a technical co-founder or having a technical team as founders already puts you ahead. But the fact that you are building and you're able to do that all in-house, and you have X amount of number of years of experience, or you specialize in whatever flavor of technology or language or code skill, whatever the case is, you can mention all of that, your previous work history. If you worked for a Amazon or Microsoft or Google or something, if you have a logo that you can put up there when you have a team slide, and you can have the three of you or whatever, however many it is. And if you have some fancy logos that people can identify really quick as part of your work history, it's a great way to do it as well.
Chris had a question, how many slides to use? And Chris, I'm going to say it depends.
I would say 11 or 12.
You could have 4 and that would be fine. But yeah, when you get past like 12 or 13, then you're starting to get pretty bogged down in slides. But the thing you have to be careful of is that when people say use this many slides, or like organizations, bigger organizations will say, you have this presentation about this product and you can't use any more than 5 slides. And then they need 30 slides to explain it. And so they cram 30 slides worth of information into 5 slides. And that's just not helpful either. So, and the other thing about slides is, if I were you, I would not put everything on one slide. I would only put on the slide what you want us to see when you're talking about that thing. Like use just appear animation. Don't do fancy things. Just appear, and lead us where you want us to look. Otherwise, we will look at everything else and not listen to you. And so think about that. If you set the, when you share your screen, you just click it on the little boxes at the bottom. If you have sound or if you have animations, and it works fine. It adjusts for that. Carly has a question.
Yeah, I guess on that thread, it sounded like, Tim, from your presentation, that for the micro pitch, the focus is kind of on product, solution, market, maybe a little bit about your team, but not so much on your business model, traction, revenue projections, like that type of material. Does that sound right?
Yeah, so and that those the latter that you mentioned, that will be talked about in November. So I would make sure that certainly talk about problem, solution, market, yeah, and your team is part of the solution. So when you talk about those three things, that's where I'd focus. But looking ahead, knowing if so going back to the slide where I was talking about like no traction, no customers, no model, no money. Like when you look, you can quickly talk about that hey, it takes you 3 seconds to say we've interviewed 150 people or we have 300 people on our wait list. You can quickly, I mean, that's all. If you have time for that stuff, and that's like when I talk about the strong stuff coming out with that first, that's all great stuff to have. And we, by design, like companies that have previously raised money or have already gone through an accelerator, they can't participate in Start Peninsula because this is truly a validation platform. We want to make sure that everyone's on an equal playing field so that you're not competing with someone who has already raised $3 million and has 25,000 customers, or whatever the case is. But if you have time, then yeah, I would certainly add that stuff.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Another question. Are we from Chris? Are we talking revenue projections at all at this point?
Not necessarily for not for the micro pitch. Maybe a touch into it in November. But that's really going to be more about what is your revenue model and how are you going to make money. But if you have customers and if you are generating revenue, I mean, if you have like a quick chart that's like, this is how many customers, this is my 30, 60, 90 trend line for a number of customers or amount of revenue raised, then that's an easy thing to put in a chart that people can identify that, hey, it's going up and to the right.
Audrey has a question before Chris has his hand up. What industries do investors invest in the most, and how would you pitch a fashion brand?
Yeah, this is one of these, like, there's so many different types of investors, and that's what makes getting investors so difficult, is because everyone has their own thesis, their investment thesis and portfolio. Me, I'm an IT services and software guy just because that's something that can scale. And so that's what I'm looking for. Every investor has their own vertical that they focus on, and they definitely, because they know that vertical really, really well. So like the hard part about finding an investor is to identify the ones that invest in the vertical that you're in, invest in the stage that you're in. So you don't want to contact an investor that only does like series B, C, and D, and you're looking for a pre-seed or a seed round. Those have to align up. So there a lot of research goes into it. I mean, there's almost like running two businesses at the same time. You have to run your business for growth, and then you also have to go, like, you're like raising money is almost a separate business within itself. So it really, every investor is different.
Chris has a question, has his hand up.
Is he muted?
We can't hear you for some reason.
Sorry. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I bought the ticket for the micro pitch, and there's kind of two pathways forward for me right now. One, I win the micro pitch or whatever. I'm one of the top people and I go forward. The second is I don't. Can you explain both pathways and how I can still get the help I need to kind of like keep on progressing?
Yep. So you pitch, you progress, you're one of the top three, and then you automatically represent the top 12 on November 8th for the championship pitch. And then from there, the top three get $5,000 in seed funding, and places 4 through 12 get 500. So that would be that's the optimal way to go. There's other things that are going to be included in that prize package as well. But so you advance, you move on to November 8th. Say you had a bad night, yeah, there's nothing stopping you from participating. You want to go at it again, you can do it. You can try again in October. Nothing, you have that pathway as well. But the other aspect is that you're now like part of the Start alumni. If you need help, I'm a resource. Gary's a resource. Yeah, we can point you to wherever you need to go. Like some of the other winning packages or whatever, as like the director of Reactor, if you're a technology business, then I'm sure that we're going to release something that, hey, you got, some free space in Reactor, and then, that unlocks all the mentorship there as well. But yeah, you all are now plugged in to the ecosystem, and take advantage of it.
Let's see, there's another question. Leo, the IT guy, what's a good place to start when it comes to identifying, analyzing your target market?
One of the great things about Start Peninsula, we are very intentional in terms of who our judges are. So as I mentioned, the two of the judges in September is going to be William McFeet and Marty Kazabowski. They are part of Virginia's ICAP program. And so the intentionality behind these judges, one, they know early stage companies. They've written checks. They understand all that aspect. But we also, now that you, like I just mentioned, you're plugged into the ecosystem. So after Start Peninsula, now your ICAP people have seen you, and then you're going to be plugged into ICAP. ICAP is a place where you can identify who those customers are, teach you how to ask the right questions, to get the feedback that you need to further validate, or not necessarily validate your business, but further, what path you need to be moving towards. How much do I charge? Who is my target customer? You may think that it's one thing, but it turns out after interviews, it's a completely different thing. So you'll be plugged into ICAP from that standpoint. And I mean, I guess, Google is just probably, I mean, they're just the monopolistic way to find out, what the different market sizes or who the different customer segments are. I would identify who those are, who you think those are, and to start talking to them now. Your customers are going to tell you everything that you need to know. If you listen to your customer, they will give you your pathway forward. And it's just sitting back. You got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Let them talk, and you just listen. And they're going to, maybe some of the probing questions would be, who are some other people that I need to talk to? Is there other Facebook groups? Is there Twitter? Is there X groups that you can find? Maybe it's, there's just, that's where I would start to look at. But when it comes to the analysis part, it's digging in, talking to them and listening. And, and then if you find out you're wrong, you're wrong. And then you pivot, and then you go to the next group.
I had one other thought going back to the deck we talked about. And when I first wanted to go off on my own, I had a friend here visiting, and I was telling him what I wanted to do. I wanted to start this business, and I was working in a corporate America in an IT job, and I wanted to start this totally different business, which I'm in now. And he just stopped me and he said, Gary, tell people what you need and they will help you. If you don't tell them what you need, they can't help you. And he was so right. And I think in this opportunity that you have to share your idea is to tell us what you need. Tell the audience what you need.
And you will find Gary and I will help you.
Yeah.
Every step of the way. We can't do it we have the capability to do it for you, but we cannot pitch for you. I mean, like we can give you feedback. We can give you suggestions. We can do a lot. And I mean, watching the process is super, super rewarding, at least for me anyway. But it's, I don't know. It is, we will help you leverage us, and you'll be surprised. It really, it's wild watching it.
Chris has a question. He asked if he could, can we record our portion of the pitch and the Q&A for social media?
Are you talking about tonight, Chris? Or are you talking about in September?
Yeah, I'm talking about September, more for like a historical. So
Yep.
when my business becomes the monster, it's going to be, I can be like, hey, when they're doing the interview 30 years down the road, like, here's my first pitch,
Yeah, for sure. And so it will be recorded. Andrew, who's online tonight and who's putting stuff in the chat, who makes all this go for Start Peninsula. I mean, we can just trim it out our end and send you the clip, whatever. Or if you can record on your end too, but yeah, 100%.